Head back out to McCormick Place and listen in to Big Ten Conference Commissioner Jim Delany.
Hey everybody. In particular, I want to thank everybody who's at their first conference media day, but also recognize those who've made all 5 media days. I know you've been away from your family for 3 weeks, and we appreciate you hanging in there and the coverage that you provide. Before I get started in my comments, it's incumbent upon me to simply mention that the obvious: life is fragile. We lost Sam and Mike this week. Major loss of life has impacted everybody. Each one of our conferences, we met yesterday with our athletic directors and faculty and coaches, and so it's on everybody's minds. It's on my mind, and I just want to be clear that hearts are broken, and our prayers and thoughts are with Mike and Sam and their families. I want to welcome 3 new coaches to the Big Ten: Lovie Smith, DJ Durkin, and Chris Ash. It's great to have Lovie back in this area, and it's great to see 2 young coaches who've had recent runs at Ohio State and Michigan to provide leadership at Maryland and Rutgers. That's terrific. The other loss we experienced this week is the loss of Dennis Green, who, as you know, was the first African-American head coach at an Autonomy 5 conference institution at Northwestern in 1981. And he went on to a great career in college football, and we lost him too early, but I think it's important to recognize the contributions he made here and other places during his career. I've got just a couple brief comments on operations and reform issues. These are really means to the end. The end is to provide healthy opportunities for thousands of young people, but we have been working hard on the operations side relative to compliance. We work hard every day to be best in class in that area. Football television schedules are kicking in this year, our 19-10, more conference games, better non-conference games. Our media rights agreement, we've been working very hard for the last 4 years to make progress in those areas. The Eastern initiatives are kicked in and progressing well. On the policy side, we've committed in the last year or two to multi-year grants, cost of attendance, return to college, and degree completion. We've increased student voice and vote at the A5 level. We have a variety of student health initiatives, including going into the 5th year of the research collaboration with the Ivies. We've achieved a $30 million research project with the NCAA and Department of Defense that many of our schools are leading on. We're in the 2nd year of our independent spotter program. And finally, all 14 of our institutions have filed their concussion management plan with the NCAA. These are simply means to an end. It's obvious that litigation is the new normal in the Big Ten. Cases speak for themselves. I'm not here to litigate any of those except to say we're making progress in those areas. Some of those cases are in the 7th or 8th inning. Some have just been initiated. We've won some. We've settled a couple. A couple have been split decisions. One in particular may go to the Supreme Court, and we'll know that in October. That's the O'Bannon case, which we've been monitoring since 2009. But rather than focus on the litigation and the legal arguments, I'd like to spend most of my time this morning talking about intercollegiate athletics, its history, its present, its future, and I think importantly to compare and contrast it to the Olympic movement, which many people compare us to, and the professional sports model, especially football and basketball, which many people compare us to and would like us to be more similar. Intercollegiate athletics has changed in multiple ways. It's uniquely American since its inception in the late 19th century. It really has gone through a movement from predominantly male, white, and regional to gender fair, diverse, and global. Of course, many of these progressive evolutions are, relatively speaking, quite recent, reflecting welcome changes in the American social norms. We went from a world with few opportunities to ones of tens of thousands of opportunities for the many. It's important to understand that we will continue to evolve and there could be outcomes that have potential to dramatically change the social, cultural, and societal impact of college sports. As we approach the 121st year of Big Ten football and the 26th Summer Olympiad, I'd like to pause and reflect upon where we've been, where we are, and where we might have been if not for the existence of college sports. My dad, my brother, my sons, my nephews have all participated in college sports at one level or another. However, not my mother and not my sisters. In fact, if we're honest with ourselves, we have to acknowledge for the first 70 years of college sports there was a systematic exclusion at most of our institutions, both directed towards women as well as towards many minority groups. During my tenure at the Big Ten, I've had the privilege of hiring 39 colleagues who were former student athletes from Division I institutions who played in 15 different sports. Let me just mention a couple of those people because they're in important decision-making positions around the country, and I think without them and without the experiences they had as students and athletes, they wouldn't be where they are today, and they are simply examples of many other people who've had this experience. Charles Waddell, the last three-sport letterman at North Carolina, earned his MBA, All-American, NFL player, was assistant commissioner of the Big Ten, is now deputy athletic director at South Carolina. Robert Vowles, Duke, law degree, football, Tennessee Human Rights Commission, commissioner of the SWAC, athletic director at University of Detroit. Wendy Wilkinson Phelan in our office, Michigan 95, MBA, gymnast, All-American, associate commissioner of Big Ten. Brad Traviola, Northwestern 1990, MBA 1995, wrestling All-American, deputy commissioner. Dewar Sharp, Wisconsin 91, winner of the Team's Leadership Award, assistant commissioner of Big Ten, commissioner of the SWAC. Andrea Williams, Texas A&M 1997, two-sport letterwomen, Sweet 16, both sports, associate commissioner, now commissioner of the Big Sky. Diane Dietz, Diana's Michigan 1982, law degree, basketball All-American, four-time captain, practiced law, senior executive Compass, deputy commissioner Big Ten. MBAs, law degrees, corporate executives, conference commissioners, deputy commissioners, male, female, black, and white. Anyone would be proud of the contributions these individuals have made, and each one of them to a person would speak to the experience that they've earned both as students and as athletes. What would it look like without these opportunities? There'll be 10,000 athletes at the Olympics about every 4 years. That's about the number of athletes that participate in the Big Ten every single year. If you look at Major League Baseball, the NFL, Major League Hockey, NBA, WNBA, less than half that number participate in all of those sports, and less than 4% of those athletes are female. Over a 4-year period, the 9,600 athletes in the Big Ten will receive over $1 billion in direct financial aid. That's $1 billion. Over the next 6 years, $1.5 billion. How many of these people would enroll in college if not for athletics, especially first-generation students? How many would graduate debt-free, especially middle-class students? How many would stay in school once enrolled, especially at-risk students without appropriate academic support? Today, the average debt for the average Big Ten student is $50,000 per person. That's $1 billion in 10 years if 70% of the student-athletes in this grouping each assume that debt. The average lifetime impact for those not earning a bachelor's degree is $1 million less than those who have. Assume for a moment that 30% of these individuals over a 10-year period chose not to or were not enrolled. That's over $10 billion of lost income. Yes, intercollegiate athletics remains at a crossroad. There is still much to debate. But because so many professional Olympic and college contests are telecast, and because so many of the participants are exceptional athletes, some would like to see college sports operate like the NBA or the NFL. These models are related, but they're actually quite different. College athletics has been and continues to be rooted in education. The mandates and the motives in sponsoring college athletics are different than the Olympic movement, and they are different than the professional sports. Our schools must comply with antitrust, labor law, Title IX, a federal law which mandates equality for men and for women. It has a cultural place in America that should not be overlooked, discarded, or underrated. Everyone has a role. We will continue to do ours to evolve, but we also believe it's incumbent for professional sports to evolve, especially football and basketball, to increase choice for high school students hoping to pursue athletic opportunities with professional leagues that don't necessarily require academic progress or have Title IX obligations. This would require professional football and basketball to do what baseball, golf, and tennis now do, which is actively invest in minor leagues or circuits below the majors, eliminate age requirements that restrict access, and open unions to students who want to pursue sports immediately following high school. College and universities should not be the exclusive grounds for training Olympic or professional athletes. This additional choice could be a win-win. High school students deserve a choice. Not every pre-professional teenage athlete would choose college if other options were available. Choice matters. But for those who do choose the college path, the opportunities are many. Everyone can benefit by mixing and increasing choice, opportunity, education. All of us will benefit. Former United States Secretary of Education Arne Duncan once said, quote, "I'm a believer in the value of college sports for both men and women. I can think of no other institution, apart from the military, that does as much to shape our future leaders as college athletics." Thank you for your time, and I take your questions.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone right over to you. Take our first one right over here on the aisle on the right. Our right.
Hey, Jim, over here.
Commissioner's on the right.
Yep.
Kevin Trahan with Vice Sports. The NFL announced that they're going to look into penalizing teams that don't follow concussion protocol. Could you ever see the NCAA having a college sports-wide concussion protocol where they actually punish teams for not following that protocol? And why haven't we seen that yet?
You know, that's a great question for Mark Emmert, I would say, number one. Number two, we work closely with our doctors and trainers, and we have expectations that they will follow the concussion management plan that we have. We have 3 university presidents who are neuroscientists. The presidents at Ohio State, Michigan, and Rutgers are all neuroscientists, and I can assure you that not only at those institutions, but the conversations they've had with our presidents, there's an incredible emphasis on following those concussion management plans, and they'll be monitored on a week-to-week basis. And in part, that's why we have an independent spotter program to coordinate with them and make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that the experience is as safe as it can be.
Commissioner, next question is on our left down front.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports.
Hey, Dennis.
Jim. Hi. What are the relative advantages and disadvantages of having a 6-year media rights deal, and do you intend on being around to renegotiate that?
No, and yes. Yeah. No to the second one. I have a lot of energy, and I have a lot of interest in what's going on in the college space today, from the operational issues, reform issues, and the existential threat. So I will be around for a bit. Whether I'm around here for 6 years is probably a little bit beyond how I see it. In terms of the 6-year period, that's really where the market was for us. Where their entities would go longer, fine, but it's really a balance between security and the dollars that can be generated in the short term. So we've done 20-year deals in a joint venture. We've done 10-year deals. But in this case, we thought 6 provided us some midterm security and the opportunity, and we have the confidence in what we have to be out there again. Things are changing, as you know, and they'll continue to change. But we thought 6 years for us was the right place to be.
Take our next question over under the lights to our right.
Yeah, Jim, Andy Seligman, AP. How do you feel about the possibility of moving future semifinal games off New Year's Eve, and would you be willing to move the Rose Bowl to accommodate a semifinal playoff game?
Yeah, we've had those discussions, and they've been constructive, and I think we're all realistic in terms of the impact that New Year's has had on the semifinals, especially in the previous year. With regard to the Rose Bowl, I think there may be some movement for other bowls, but I don't foresee change in how the Rose Bowl is sequenced in to the college football playoff. So the answer is I realize the challenge. I think there may be changes in the offing, but I wouldn't expect those changes to impact the Rose Bowl.
Next question to the far left of the room for us.
Jim, Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. The Pac-12 and the SEC have those transfer bans for serious misconduct issues. Do you foresee the Big Ten ever adopting that? Are there discussions about that sort of rule?
Yep. We have had discussions on that. Ever is quite a long time. But I would tell you that as we've looked at it, and we've talked to our athletic directors, our faculty, our presidents, we've had outside legal counsel, as well as experts on the Clery Act and Title IX. And we believe that, the facts and circumstances closest to the ground are the places that those decisions ought to be made. I think just as you've seen these policies executed, and in some cases they work, in some cases they fail to work. So we've got a lot of confidence in the commitment by our institutions, totally committed to reducing and if not eliminating violence, sexual violence in every way. And so we will continue to have those discussions, but we have made the decision that based on the facts and circumstances being local, that's the best place for these decisions to be worked out.
We'll come over here on the aisle down the center.
Yeah.
Jim, Ryan Dunleavy from NJ.com. There have been some reports out there of new numbers for the Big Ten TV deal. Are those numbers accurate? And regardless of what they end up being, is there any room for negotiating the payouts to Rutgers and Maryland and Nebraska, other integrated members, or are those contracts set in stone no matter what the numbers end up being before 2021?
Yeah, we as you know, it's the policy of the Big Ten not to confirm media numbers. There's always speculation. People always leak. Sometimes they're really accurate, sometimes they're high, and sometimes they're low. What we do is what we need to do by law. We conform to the requirements to file the 990. Steve Berkowitz does his annual take for all of us to give us a good insight into what's going on in different conferences, and we'll do that. In terms of the financial integration, of course, there's the academic, there's the competitive, and there's the financial. And those deals were agreed upon at the time. They're all a little bit different. Everybody was kept whole from where they came. And then when there's full financial integration, they will all be full financial members, and that's an equal number of years for each of them. It's a 6-year process. But the deals that were negotiated were all negotiated on the basis of keep us whole, keep you whole, and after 6 years of being a member of the Big Ten, you will then become a full financial member.
Time for one more question, and we'll go over here in the middle on the left.
Jim, Doug Maurice from Cleveland.com. This is just one measure, but in the 2016 recruiting rankings, the East had the 4 top recruiting classes. In 2017, 5 of the top 6 recruiting classes are East Division teams. What is your belief in that you have the correct division alignment right now, East and West, in terms of competitive balance, and what could ever lead to rethinking that?
Yeah, as you know, as we move from 11 to 12 and then 12 to 14, we've taken two different routes. The first route was what I would call competitive-based, not as geographic-based, but we didn't quite have the spread. The most recent change when we went to 14 was geographic. I think we were cognizant on the first go-round of almost having a draft. The top 4 split them up, the next 4 split them up, and so on. In this one, it was pure geography. If you draw a line, and that was a decision that was discussed, debated, and decided. And so I don't expect that to change in the short term. Could it change? The word ever is a long word, and could it ever change? Yeah, I guess there could be a discussion, but there is no present discussion to make that change. And I think things are a little cyclical. I mean, if you look at other conferences who've experimented much longer than we have, you had a 10 or 12-year run by the Eastern Group in the SEC, and then a 15, 10, 12-year run by the West. It looks like the East is getting stronger. We have some great programs in the West. that have won national championships, that have won big bowls, that have found themselves in the top 5 and 10 rankings in the country, have great coaches, great resources, great brands. So I expect over time that there would be parity, maybe not as much parity as a set of divisions that were maybe negotiated and drafted, but I think there will be benefits of parity in this system.
Thank you very much.